Computer is moving slow. There we are, right there. That out. Bring this in. Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Get my grip like here. Hey, Hawkeye fans, we got a victory today. Homecoming win. Man, much needed. As I was talking about with Julian before we hopped on here and Jordan got in the room. Jordan Canzeri and special guest star, like on the Love Boat, Julian Vandervelde, wearing his Hawkeye gear. Jovan, happy anniversary to Jovan. He and his significant other are out at dinner right now. That certainly is more important than anything we're going to talk about here, but still, we're going to talk about important things nonetheless. Guys, as I usually do, as Jordan knows, and I'll start with him, just kind of general thoughts on what you saw today.
We saw what we could do when we played as a unit, especially up front. We controlled the line of scrimmage. It was nice to see Spencer even looked more comfortable in the pocket. So just overall on offense, I mean, when we're doing better than we have all season before the first half ends, that's obviously a great sign. And, obviously with homecoming, as you said, too, it was great to see the win. But overall, offense and defense was firing.
Julian?
Yeah, I mean, you expect that out of the defense, right? That's kind of the norm at this point. And you have to think that sooner or later that offense is going to gel. Offensive line certainly looks, yards better than it has throughout the rest of the year, which is a big contributing factor to, both Spencer's comfort level and also the success with the running game. But overall, I think the only real surprise was Torrey Taylor's shank. That was the only thing that I think really caught me as like a moment. Like everything else about that, it's like, okay, we're starting to see what this team can really be when we're able to put everything together.
Yeah, no doubt. Very uncharacteristic of Torrey, but he's usually more active in the game. I think he was just cold. He didn't punt forever, and then he gets out there and shanks one. It looked like he may have been wearing new shoes too. He may want to sideline those cleats with the orange on them. Julian, you talked about it. Offensive line, much maligned this year, inexperienced group. Some changes today. Jack Plum out at right tackle. Connor Colby moves inside. Nick DeYoung at the other guard. So the most experienced unit we've really seen this year. Most of these guys, other than Logan Jones, played last year. So that was a good sign.
And I think that it's something that we've been waiting for, is that unit to kind of come together and gel. Obviously, the big question mark coming in was with Linderbaum kind of taking that core element out of the middle of the line. How does everyone else, perform? Who do you rally around? Who steps up to be the leader? Who brings that unit together? And so it certainly is happening, I think, a little bit slower than we'd like it to. But I've certainly hearkened this in conversations back to, my first year as a starter at Iowa, when, that was the first time that we didn't go to, or the only time that we didn't go to a bowl game. And we were in a very similar situation halfway through the season. Everything was pretty rough, and we didn't seem like we had a lot going for us offensively, but you kind of see what that leads into as these guys now are going to have 2 years, 3 years, 4 years for some of them probably under their belts in the coming years, starting as a unit. And if Iowa has a great offensive line, we're in a good spot. Doesn't really matter who's sitting back there at quarterback. It doesn't matter who the running back is. Although with Caleb Johnson, we're also going to have a running back who's got 2 years, 3 years for his experience, in the future. So while I understand that it's frustrating right now to see that unit coming together at the end of this season, I think bodes really well for what we're going to see in the next couple of years.
I was shooting photos in that south end zone when Caleb Johnson came right at me and stretched the ball over the goal line. I had a perfect shot of the not touchdown and then celebration. That's kind of, nobody wants to hear about my misery in photography. But Jordan, what'd you see from the backs? It looked like they, as Julian said, the offensive line got a push and they were reading blocks well. It looked like to me anyway. Yeah,
no, reading and being patient with the run. Caleb Johnson, he was breaking multiple tackles. Again, great to see from a guy that will hopefully be seeing put in some good work on the field for the next few years. as Julian said, and even Williams I saw had a couple good runs. So it's that thing that we were waiting for them to finally, just work cohesively together. And we always love when people talk smack and then it backfires. I guess Harold had some wise words for the O-line and about our O-line. They were using that as some fuel, and you could definitely see their days. So great to see. Definitely something.
No question. I'm going to throw some stats out here for folks listening. Iowa, 24 first downs, 5 of 11 on third down, 1 for 1 on the fourth down, 393 total yards, 220 through the air, 173 on the ground. Nice balance there. Only 2 penalties for 13 yards, 36 rush attempts. What were the pass attempts? 30. So 36 rush, 30 pass, 31-44 on time of possession. Some individual numbers. The aforementioned Caleb Johnson with 14 carries for 88 yards. That's 6.3 a pop. LaShawn Williams, 11 for 43. Arlen Bruce, 3 for 27. Nico Reganey, good to see him get going. 4 catches for 66, 5 for 53 for Laporta. And Deontay Vines, nice to see him get in the mix too. 2 for 22. What'd you guys see? Start with Julian from Spencer Petras.
I mean, the comfort level was the biggest thing, I think. Especially if you're not an offense that is going to spend a lot of time, moving your quarterback a lot, which we certainly did more play action this game, which is always a good thing to see, but it only works if you have a run game to actually, threaten people with. For him to be able to just stand tall in the pocket and not be under duress at times for several seconds really gives him a chance. I think we're also starting to see that with the receiving core starting to get healthy and starting to get some guys back. He's got some reliable receivers out there in Nico, in Laporta, but then to have Vines step up as well, and to have, Arlen Bruce and some of these other guys, and Luke Latchy with the touchdown catch, obviously. The weapons, the variety of weapons are starting to become more plentiful. Brody Brecht getting back into the mix with things. So I think that's the biggest thing for me with Spencer is it looks like as he's gaining weapons back and his offensive line is gelling, you're starting to see him calm down a little bit and have a little bit more of that presence in the pocket that allows him to be more efficient in that traditional pocket passing quarterback, that big, tall, strong dude that, we traditionally tend to thrive with.
Yeah, Jordan, we've certainly been critical of Spencer this season on this podcast, and he hasn't played well throughout most of the season, but it was kind of cool to see what he can do with some time.
Yeah, and exactly when there's comfort level and he can just sit and just make the throws and be confident in his own footwork and not being too skittish on thinking someone's about to rock him. Where the one thing, one of my buddies, shout out to my boy Dakota for even saying this, because I feel not many people think about it either. But even though, yes, there have been plenty of throws where would think at that level you should be able to make. All year he's been under duress, and all year we've been going against very, very good defenses. Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois' defense was, I think last week was #1 in the country. It's like, so those are things that people forget to, really think about, that we're going against really good competition. And yes, Northwestern is a weaker team. Pat Fitzgerald is still never a coach to sleep on. And Ferentz even said it. We were up on them twice and they were able to come back. So it doesn't matter what the record shows. Definitely not a team to sleep on, but we went out there, we handled them. And again, to have more yards than all games are averages just in the first half today, I know the confidence, and I really hope and believe that it will help them with their confidence going forward, and hopefully get some more wins in so we can be bowl eligible.
And the defense is a witch, so to speak. 37 carries for Northwestern, 18 yards. So you're not going to do a lot offensively when you can't move the ball at all on the ground. And they had a young quarterback and they got after him a little bit today too. So that was certainly really good to see. Julian, when you look at, and I wrote about this on Sunday night or Monday, I kind of compared Coach Ferentz, not directly to Michael Myers, but Michael Myers is kind of one of those guys that just keeps coming. He's a comeback guy. When the chips are down and you think he's done, he comes back, right? Halloween never ends, even though they say it's going to end. He's been in this spot before. He seems to excel when people are doubting him. And these were 5 winnable games. This, to me, was the easiest one, Northwestern. But the teams remaining of the 5 were 17 and 20 total coming into this weekend, with Purdue being the best at 5 and 3. So it was just like, if you can get something going on offense with how good the defense and special teams are, these are winnable games. And we saw that today, that when you have a little bit of offense, the defense got the rest in the first half. It probably didn't know what it was doing with itself on the sideline. What can a game like this do to just kind of build some momentum? Because these teams they play coming forward are going to be better than Northwestern, but you can at least build a little momentum here.
Well, it's the momentum and it's the confidence. And I think you kind of mentioned it, the ball control was the biggest element that I feel like we were missing. Like, don't get me wrong, our offense, not since Brad Banks have we been, what I would consider a prolific offense, by any means. But at the same time, all we have to be really is average on offense. That's the formula of this team: is play the ball, control game, play the field position game. And up to this point, I'm really not sure how many games, if any, we held an advantage in terms of time of possession. And so to at least end the first half, I think we had something like 66% of the total time of offense or time of possession. When you have a defense as elite as Iowa's is, and will be in and out, as long as there's a Parker at the helm, it feels like, I think that ability to give them a little bit of time, to move the ball, to play the field position game, to see the offense come out and get 24 first downs. How many first downs have we had the rest of the season, for the love of God? It feels like not even that many. We might have doubled our total today. But to have that formula kind of play into the way that you're going to do things going forward, you can point to this game and say, okay, that's the thing. That's it right there. That's the way that we play. That's the type of game that we have to have. And it gives guys confidence that we can do that now. You just have to replicate it. If you've done it once, you can do it again. It's just a matter of replicating that same formula now over and over and over again.
To your point, Jordan, and you mentioned this earlier, not only Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio State were top 10 in defense, but Iowa State was too. So that's the 4 losses that Iowa had coming into this game were against 4 top 10 defenses. So if you think developmental program getting better as the season goes on, offense getting better, they've seen a lot this year from a defensive standpoint on offense. You would think that would make the offense better moving forward here, no?
Oh, definitely. And as you said, to be going against teams that are definitely winnable games for the rest of the year, to face and go against some of the toughest teams, it's going to raise your bar for, just the competitiveness of what you're going to see and face and what you're able to put out on the field. The one thing, and going off of what Julian said as well, is yeah, this is exactly how we want to play as Iowa. And when they said that Northwestern had the ball 3 times total the first half, that's exactly how we want to play. We want to have long drives on offense, go down and score points, and then defense quick 3 and outs. And that's exactly what they did. And they'll definitely be bringing that confidence forward. So excited to see what they'll do next week.
Let's end with that. Purdue next week. A little bit of interesting storylines here. You've got the Charlie Jones and Tyrone Tracy storylines here. A little bit of bumping of heads in recruiting recently as well. Jeff Brom, he's one of the few guys that has found a way to kind of at least put some dents in Phil Parker's offense. What are you guys seeing next week? Start with you, Jordan.
I would say that's the big thing, is just limiting the big plays. Purdue for the past few years has been able to move the ball offensively, and that's something that all would be in shock to see. So I think this year Phil Parker will definitely be prepared. We'll be able to limit those things, and offensively, again, just after a game like today, they're going to roll in with a new set of confidence, knowing that they can get a job done, knowing that they can be successful. And it'll be a whole different Iowa that I know Purdue is probably expecting. They've probably seen how we've played. I'm sure their defensive coaches over there are licking their chops and saying things that, this is a team that we can handle. But again, after a game like today, I think they're going to be in for a surprise that this is going to be a whole new system and a whole new group moving forward.
I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you, Julian. I'm laughing with you. I've had young kids before, and I know for those that can't see the YouTube feed, he's trying to babysit his kids and keep them quiet. He's waiting for the pizza guy to show up, all this stuff, but he took time out to join us here.
We just moved houses, so it's like we're in the middle of a move during all of this as well, and it was just kind of like, okay, everything else is going on hold while Iowa plays. Okay, now the game's over, we get back to real life.
Some thoughts on Purdue, Julian? You've seen the last few years with Jeff Brown. He what he does is he just keeps taking shots, and that's what Phil Parker. I think I'm looking forward to see if Phil has an answer for this one finally.
Yeah, that was the big shocker. Last year obviously was we're coming off of the Penn State win and flying high and #2 in the country and all this stuff, and just get absolutely rocked by Purdue. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a scheme thing, if Brom has figured out this Phil Parker defense, and he's just not telling anybody because he wants it to be his own little well-kept secret and everything, or what the deal is. But we do seem to struggle against them and their style and the way that they play. And now we've given them a pair of weapons, Charlie, in particular, who is just carving people up left and right. But I think it's a different defense this year, obviously, than it was last year. I think that schematically, it's very, very difficult to beat the same team twice. That's a big thing that comes up, and especially when you're dealing with Phil Parker, like, it's hard to beat him the same way. Especially you have to find new ways, so I think he's going to be ready with some new tricks up his sleeve as well. And hopefully it comes out that the offense can put up enough points, because Purdue's going to score. We know that. It's just a matter of, are we going to score more, than they do, which, when you look at the offense production this year, it gives you pause. But at the same time, again, field position, limit the number of possessions that they have the opportunity to put points up, and that at least keeps us in the game and gives us a chance. So I am hoping that the offense can take a big step forward next week, and provide us enough spark, to handle that high-powered Purdue offense.
I know a lot of Hawkeye fans probably know this, but just a reminder, David Bell is gone. He's off to the NFL. He's not going to be carving up Iowa's defense anymore. He was just a tough guy. He was a tough matchup. They still have really good receivers, obviously Charlie, Tyrone, and others. Really good quarterback, very accurate quarterback, and that's kind of what you need against Iowa, a guy that can throw in the zone and find those holes in the zone. So that's going to be a key to stopping him. And then the other thing, which, thank you, Big Ten, Purdue's on a bye week, so they have 2 weeks to prepare for this one. So last bit here, and I'll let you guys go. Start with you, Julian, in case the pizza man shows up. How do you feel coming out of it today? We're trying to keep some context and perspective here. It was Northwestern, but it was a step forward. So how do you come out of today? How do you feel coming out of today about the team?
Feelings, I'll be honest. I think the biggest thing is you look at the competition that we have played, and it feels like we don't really know how we fare offensively, because the teams that we have lost to are top 10 defenses. You would expect to not be able to score a lot of points against them. And then the teams that we've beaten are kind of, bottom of the barrel teams in terms of what Northwestern's almost ranked 100th. I think they're very low on the list. We haven't really.
They're they're the second worst defense in the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten. So when you look at kind of, it's like we've had the extremes, right? We've had the far extremes. And so I feel like it is very hard to accurately place where our offense actually is in terms of its development. But it does give you confidence, I think. And it certainly gives me confidence that, first of all, every day of the week, they have to go out and practice against the top 10 defense. And then you look at the teams that we've lost against, and you see top 10 defense, blah, 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 all the way down the line. It's like, okay, so we have struggled against that, but nonetheless, we continue to move forward. You see progress, you see development at every single position. And so now as we get healthier at wide receiver, we have more weapons. Spencer's confidence gets higher. The offensive line starts to gel. It's like, okay, you start to see this thing roll. And I think that I feel far more confident than I probably have any right to with the way that the rest of the season is going to go. Honestly, the only ones that give me pause at this point are Purdue, because of what Jim Brom has historically done against us. And then Nebraska, just because with the change of Scott Frost, he was one of those guys where I always felt like, well, at least as long as Scott Frost is there, they're never going to beat us. And then, they make that shocking change early in the season. And so now I'm not entirely sure what to expect out of them, game time. So those are the only two that really give me any pause. Other than that, I do think we have a very significant chance of being bowl eligible. I do think we will be bowl eligible. So I feel pretty good about not just the rest of this season, but then obviously moving forward from this year, how the next 2 to 3 years are going to play out for us.
Real quick, before you go, Jordan, I want to let folks know that support for the podcast comes from Systems Unlimited, celebrating 50 years of providing services to people living with disabilities and mental health needs throughout East Central Iowa. A list of their services and upcoming events can be found at sui.org. Take it away, Jordan. We've got another contributor to the podcast, better looking than all us. Go ahead. Than all us. Go, Jordan.
Just going off of that, there were two things that I heard that I thought were big, just from takeaways. And the first one was just from big man himself, Kirk Ferentz. When he was getting interviewed, I think it was after halftime, the woman asked well, what do you think about going forward? And after the loss to Ohio State and here and there, and he just said, well, what are you going to do? We faced what we faced. We lost. We have to look forward, have to believe in ourselves, and have to be confident going forward. That's just what you have to do. But going off of that, I forgot what the name of the one announcer, he said, and it's very true. He said that you can believe all you want and you can say and have this belief in yourself, but not until you step on the field and actually show yourself you can do it and you're capable. That's when that energy and confidence just really takes off and sets forward. So again, it's like, we faced a lot of tough teams, and that has carried with them. You learn a lot from losses, and they're always painful, but they had to each week just believe no matter what, believe no matter how bad the offense did. But this week to finally just go out there and annihilate a team, I know that makes them feel good. They're going to be excited, and rolling forward, things will be different. So I really do have a good feeling, and I hope it's not just one and done.
Yes, I hope not either. Who knows, Julian? Maybe this is 08. Coming off the field after that loss at Illinois, there weren't a lot of people giving you guys much of a chance. Went out and beat the ball coach in the Outback Bowl. That ended well.
That's the feel that I get. That's the vibe that I get from this team. And I know I've put that on social media, and people have been like, "Oh, but we don't have Sean Green and blah 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 blah." Like, yeah, maybe not. But even Sean Green has come out and said, like, Caleb Johnson reminds him of him. I think both of the Williamses run hard, so we have that running element. And as long as Iowa can run the ball, we're going to be okay. And so as that offensive line continues to gel and those young backs are able to get their feet under them, I think we will be able to run the ball, and the team's going to be just fine. Leon, you want to say go Hawks before we leave? Go Hawks.
Good looking kids there, Julian. I'm going to credit that to the wife.
Sorry, now they're spraying again. Okay. What have I started?
All right, everybody. We appreciate you listening to the podcast. Thank you for Julian for hopping in place of Jovan. And happy anniversary again to Jovan. Thanks, Jordan. I know you got to get going. Julian's going to eat some pizza. I'm going to finish my work, and then we're going to get after it next week in West Lafayette. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week on the